riding is for us all about getting the right kit to allow you to enjoy your ride once you get out of the door. But knowing what to look for in a new kit can be tricky. Luckily, Ale have provided us with a selection of their winter clothing, and I'll be joined by CAMS-Basso's Megan Barker, star of the Road and Track, to help us talk you through it.
When the weather's really grim outside, I have the option, of course, to get on the turbo or just decide to stay in bed and not go out. But you don't really have that, do you? How important is dressing right for this time of year?
Yeah, it's really important. I think this time of year it's okay, it's just cold and you can handle that. But when it gets cold and wet, that's when it's really bad. So yeah, you've got to make sure I think it's helpful to layer up.
What are your biggest solutions for not getting really cold to the core when it's raining?
A good waterproof, definitely. Always having one in your pocket, so even if you set out and it's dry, have one, just because it probably will rain at some point in the UK. Yeah. And yeah, fingers and toes, really good gloves, really good overshoes. I think once your toes get cold, that's when your whole body starts to feel really cold. So yeah, I think keeping your fingers and your toes warm, so nice socks, nice overshoes is really important, but definitely having that emergency waterproof in your pocket at all times.
And how do you look good? Because you do always genuinely look really good out on the bike. Because once I start like layering up on my ear warmers or my neck, and just got a little bit of my face out, like I don't always look the best. How do you pull it off in the style stakes?
Oh well, thanks. I don't know, I guess maybe a bit of coordination. I tend to go for plain black tight, but then a colourful top so that you're seen, because I think a lot of people go for sleek black everything to look cool, but yeah, in the winter I couldn't think of anything worse. Like, I want to be seen, so I tend to wear some black tights and overshoes, black gloves, and then a bright top, or a kind of a reflective waterproof, so that I'm seen, and I think they look quite cool as well, so that's nice. But I think I keep the bulk of things black so that they're coordinated, and then go for a bright statement top. Yeah.
I love that it's in fashion as well, because it is important that we're going around wearing florals and bright colours, because we do want to be seen. It's absolutely crucial, isn't it? And you want to look great. I think something else for me is quite often I've had criticism on things like Instagram where people have seen what I'm wearing and said, oh, that looks really dull, you're not very visible, which, you know, I agree with. You want to be, most importantly, visible. But with garments like I've got on at the minute, they look quite subtle until you're actually out on the road and something like a car beam hits it, and you just glow, don't you? And I think the technical ability of clothing now is just so much more advanced.
Yeah, these jackets are my favourite jacket I've ever had, because they look so nice, and I think they're very simple and like they look the part, but yeah, reflective, and you can always be seen by cars. So yeah, they are. I love those jackets, they're really nice.
And tell us a bit about the kit that you ride in on your training rides with your team kit, and some of the things that you most like about it.
Yeah, so CAMS-Basso kit is fluorescent yellow and red, and it's just so good. Like, I feel really safe in the winter with the fluorescent yellow. It's essentially like wearing a light on your top, so you feel safe. And I think even when you're racing, you can always spot your team. Like, I was watching the women's tour a couple of weeks ago on the TV, and I'm like, there they are. Like, you can always see them, and when you're in the bunch yourself, you can always find your teammates. And it's really, really nice, comfortable kit. But yeah, I think being seen when you're out training all through the winter in the UK is just really important. So it's nice to have that as your kit.
The way that these iridescent garments are created is really quite clever. Microspheres of glass are what gives it the shiny appearance, and when light hits these, they bounce straight back, illuminating you on those dark lanes. And the best bit though is that the oil slick finish simply looks brilliant.
I always find with riding in this country and it being so changeable is I'm often okay and I feel like I've got the layering right, and then I stop at a cafe and then it's game over, and you know, you've not only got cafe legs but you're freezing. Do you stop on those days? How do you manage it? Can you manage it with good clothing?
The only time I'd refuse to stop is if it's cold and wet, because that's a bad combination. You're just going to be freezing. But no, I think when it's a fresh day, it's a nice day but it is cold, you just need to have layers. So you know, you might be fine setting off in just a base layer and your long sleeve, but if you've got, you know, your gloves and your waterproof and your gilet in your pocket, then when you stop, and then you go to set off again, you can just layer back up. So I think, yeah, that's really important, having a good gilet that kind of keeps the wind off your chest. And they fold away quite nicely, so you can always have that in your back pocket, or I quite like using a handlebar bag now. So you can just bring layers like that with you, and then just take them off, put them on as the weather changes or as you stop, and go again. Yeah.
And in terms of what you wear as a pro, like of course your kit looks absolutely stunning in the peloton. Can we go and buy the same sort of design?
Yeah, so the kit is actually exactly the same. It's not like we get better quality kit because we're in the pro peloton. It is the same kit, it's just branded with our specific sponsors. So I mean, this jacket is the same as my jacket. This just has a nice funky design, and mine's CAMS-Basso. So yeah, no, it's all the same kit. There's not the kind of better quality. It's all just the really good quality and available for everyone. So yeah, it's great.
Oh, that's so cool. And I think if you look back a few years ago at cycling fashion, it was very sleek, very black. I think you mentioned that before. You know, that was the thing, wasn't it? In terms of what manufacturers were bringing out as fashion in cycling. But that has shifted.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know why that was ever the fashion for winter, because it's the worst thing you could wear. And I think, yeah, like companies like Ale are really changing that, and like if you bring out nice bright designs, people are going to want to buy that, and then in turn they feel like they look good and they're safe on the road. So I think it's so much better having bright kit as being the fashion. And I think a lot of professional teams now, even if their racing kit is dark, they'll bring out a brightly coloured training kit for them so that they can go out training, feel safe, and then, you know, they can keep with their brand and wear their dark kit in the race. But yeah, having a bright coloured training kit is definitely good.
I always find that when it's raining, what to wear as your outer layer can be an absolute minefield, because you can have a rain shell or wind shell that looks exactly the same, but one lets water through and others don't. So what's your advice on getting that right?
Yeah, I think some are kind of, they look waterproof but they're just windproof, or some are showerproof, so if it's drizzling then you'd be fine. But no, in the winter you definitely need a waterproof jacket, something where the rain just, you can actually see it just dripping off you and not soaking through, because I think as soon as your chest gets wet, that's when it's bad and you can get ill, or, you know, you just get really cold. So yeah, you need to make sure the jacket is actually waterproof and not just showerproof.
And you don't want to boil in the bag either, do you?
No, definitely. You want something that's breathable, so you want something that doesn't let the rain in but kind of lets the sweat out, I suppose, because otherwise you're just going to end up wet on the inside anyway.
Durable water resistance, or DWR for short, is a coating which is applied to the fabric that makes water run off the surface before it soaks you to the bone. But the DWR coating still allows the garment to breathe, which for a rider such as Megan, who trains in the highly changeable British weather, can be ideal for staying comfortable.
So a lot of riders talk about their off-season, and I kind of picture you going off to the Bahamas for 6 weeks, but in reality it's quite short, isn't it?
Yeah, for me I'm having 2 weeks and enjoying every second of it. Yeah, it's great.
And is that completely off the bike, or do you still just do, you know, what you feel like doing?
Completely off the bike, yeah. I try to just do more like walking. I think I quite enjoy going for long walks, but when I'm training I can't really do that. So yeah, I use it to do other things that I can't normally do in the race seasons.
One of the prominent issues in the world of fashion is the environmental impact of both the production of new clothing but also the constant need to buy new items. Cycling, while one of the most eco-friendly ways to get around, is often no different. Ale's PRR green road jersey, though, is one of a new breed of garments which uses recycled and other low environmental impact materials to reduce the footprint that the brand creates. This eco-focus doesn't have to come at the cost of performance either, with Ale saying that the fabrics retain the lightweight feel and breathability that you'd find in the normal range.
What does a typical training day look like in the depths of winter for you?
Training, well, I do track and road, so training is very mixed. I think road riders through the winter, it'd just be riding basically on the road. So for me, now that I'll be having 2 weeks off, I'll use a bit of time to just ride. So luckily I'm going to Mallorca straight away, so it'll be kind of endurance-based rides, no efforts, just getting that base fitness back. But but then we pretty quickly have to start doing some intervals because we've got some track races, track nationals in January. So yeah, I think a typical week I'd do gym twice a week. That's pretty staple all through the year as much as possible. And then maybe 3 long endurance base rides, so that's all through the winter, whatever the weather, most of the time. 3 to 5 hours would be a base ride, and then maybe two interval or track sessions where we're getting that high intensity effort in. That's a typical week.
How much more of a challenge is it that you're having to combine track and road priorities, which not everyone has to do?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I love it because it keeps everything varied. Like, my week is never the same, but sometimes it is hard when I've been doing track for quite a while, track and gym, and then I go to a stage race and I'm like, oh, it's a long way. I find the challenge more coming from track into the road. I think coming from the road into a track is you get it back quite quickly, the speed, because I think having the base endurance is the most important thing.
And in terms of winter motivation, you presumably have the moments that we all have where you just don't want to get up and do it, and you look out the window and you're like, or the weather app, scrolling, looking for a better one. No, I've still got to go out. Like, how do you get out the door?
Yeah, well, it is hard. I think a lot of the time the hardest bit is just setting off. And once you've set off, you're normally you're fine, as long as you're wearing the right clothing and you've not gone out in shorts and jersey in the winter, and you've layered up properly. The worst bit is getting out of the door. So I just try and tell myself that, and I'm like, once you're out, you'll be committed and you'll be fine. And there's nothing better than getting back from a cold, wet ride, showering, pyjamas, cup of tea on the sofa. So I just tell myself, just wait for that moment, it'll be worth it.
That is such good advice, because you never regret the ride that you get out and do. I mean, maybe the hypothermia day I regretted, but you don't. You always think, why did I procrastinate about getting out the door? Have you got any other words of wisdom for people watching this video thinking, right, I'm really struggling at the moment, it's that point where the weather's really dipping, how do I keep going?
I mean, I love the feeling of like getting back and thinking I've done it. Like, you feel so proud of yourself and like you've worked hard, and then you can just chill for the rest of the day. And I think for me that feeling is always worth the going out. But I think maybe the night before, having your kit out ready, having your bike ready, your bottle ready, laying out what you're going to wear, check the weather and check what you're going to wear, and then you just got to get up, put it on, go. And then you don't let your brain tell you, no, don't go, it's cold.
I couldn't agree more. It's those moments for me where I'm hunting for an overshoe that I can't find. Yeah. I'm like, I've got one waterproof one neoprene. And then you're like, do I really go out? But when I've laid it out, I'm like, no excuses, out the door. Brilliant advice.
So there you go, getting yourself kitted out for winter riding doesn't have to be difficult. Starting with a cosy thermal base layer is key, and then layers are your friend. Having garments which are breathable and that will fend off a bit of the rain is ideal for riding here in the UK. If you have any questions about kit selection for winter riding, then drop them down in the comments below. Do you have a favourite piece of kit? Let us know that too. If you like this video, then drop us a like and remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.